you,
before.
and once again,
You know,
congratulations on your recent journey and rising and rising. Your profile
yeah,
is reaching the
yeah.
highest
And you can
heights.
see my book behind me here,
Yeah,
which is quite
you very proud. I also have a copy here, right here in front of me.
great stuff. And by the
Yes,
way, you wrote the forward for those
yeah,
people don't, who don't know.
yeah. No, I'm
Solly
very happy to have
wrote
been
the
part of
book.
this journey, and it's not
Part
ended. It's
of
just the beginning, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just the beginning, sorry.
Yeah,
And I think the way forward would be just exciting. But so let me get into South Africa's affairs. I think you and I are engaged in that. You know, we always follow these things. We want
right.
to comment and all that. I thought I should catch up with you, man. You know, last month I was with you in Kempton Park. I saw you giving a very nice speech there. And one of the things you mentioned, so you spoke about, you said, white people, if white people were to come back into power, to get into political power, they would never bring back apartheid, right? Because we've seen this narrative by some people saying that if a white person is voted into power in South Africa, they are going to bring back the apartheid system. And you were saying
Yeah.
at that talk, that's not going to happen. Explain that to
Well, yeah, well, it was specifically about the DA. Of course, the DA is often referred to as a white party. I wasn't saying white party for people in general. But in any case,
yeah,
whether it's the
yeah,
DA, whether it's the DA or
any
somebody else, it's impossible to bring back apartheid. In order to bring back apartheid, first of all, I don't know of anyone in the current political space who wants to bring back apartheid, who has the appetite to bring it back. Secondly, even if somebody wanted to do so, they would have to change the constitution. They would have to undo every piece of legislation that was put in place since 1994. It's virtually impossible. To change a lot of these things, you need the right number of votes in the National Assembly. There's no way, nobody in this world today, it's inconceivable that somebody wants to bring back apartheid. A lot of people are even ashamed that they grew up under apartheid, that they didn't speak out, that they didn't understand or know what was going on during apartheid. So I think it's, to accuse the DA specifically of wanting to bring back apartheid is really just scaremongering, because there are still many people who are still traumatized by the experience of apartheid. And it is traumatizing. I mean, the truth is, if you ask me to choose between, say, a return to apartheid and ANC, I choose the ANC. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I thought it was terrible. Nobody wants to go back there. I don't want to go back there. And I would fight to the hill until I die against anybody who tries to bring it back. The only sad thing is that apartheid left us with some really good institutional starter packs that we could have used to grow further, that we could have invested in and to spread them. We didn't do that. I mean, I grew up, of course, I'm older than you. I grew up, I was going as a youngster, I was taken to Johannesburg, the city. We went to Johannesburg to hang out at the Carlton Center to watch movies and stuff like that. The place was clean. There were parks in Johannesburg. It's not like at every step you felt apartheid. Of course, there was apartheid, but it doesn't mean that we could do absolutely nothing. We went to the movies. We hung out at the Carlton Center. We walked in the cities. We stayed in the parks in Johannesburg. It was clean. But if you see the city of Johannesburg today, it's absolutely horrifying. And you can't blame that on apartheid. And we could have maintained those cities. We could have maintained all these institutions, ESCOM, Transnet, all these institutions that were created, that we inherited. Water services in South Africa. South Africa, we used to boast that in South Africa, the water does. I remember when I studied in France, people still bought water from the supermarket to go and drink at home. I said, well, in South Africa, you don't have to do that. Or water is clean. We can't even do that anymore because at least not as widely as it used to be. So there's a lot of stuff that we should have taken care of, that we should build from, in order to get more people to benefit from them in cases where they were just reaching out to a small population.
Yeah, yeah. So you are saying, solely, that it's government that has been very bad. That the institutions we had that were left behind by the National Party, we have mismanaged them, that they've collapsed. Is that your
Well, we've
argument, your
destroyed them.
opinion?
We've destroyed many of them. Oh, all of, tell me one that's working properly. Just one. There isn't anyone. Yeah. Of course, we've destroyed. I think that we're too emotional. When you bring emotions into governance issues, you end up making the wrong decisions. There was rationality was replaced by emotion in the governance of systems in South Africa. So when you're too emotional, you don't make decisions that require that you think about what kind of person you're placing in a position. Are they the right person? How are they monitored? And if they don't do the right thing, what are the consequences for that? So people were just put into systems because they were the child of so and so. They were known from the struggle era. Even in embassies, I mean, I speak to friends, and I've been fortunate to live in places like Canada, USA, France, and now I'm in Switzerland. I've known people in South African embassies who shouldn't have been there. They were there because they were so and so's child and cousin, and some people were taken out of the political space to be sent into these. These are people who are supposed to represent who we are as a country in the global arena. And some of them, when they stand up to speak at a podium, I kid you not, you want to hide under the table.
So yeah. It's been very disappointing. And now BE, you also spoke at that when you spoke there in Kempton Park, you said that race-based policies are not what we should pursue in South Africa, right? That
No.
if we want to have programs, we should have programs for everybody, right?
Yeah,
If it's an anti-poverty program, it's gonna be for every person of every race in South Africa.
Yeah.
Expand on that.
Look, every day there are black children who are being born in South Africa, just like every day there are white children, colored Indian, Indian, and other children, Indian children born in South Africa. So if you're saying we are going forever to just cater for black children, you are being unfair to the white child, Indian child, colored child who is born long after apartheid. I mean, my daughter is now 19 years old. Some of her best friends are kids that she went to school with. Now that she's at university, they come from all colors. And I asked her once, would you accept a position if you and one of your white friends went to present yourselves as candidates for a position, and they said you guys have the same qualifications, experience, you're equally very good, but we'll give to you because you're black. She said, no, I won't take it. Okay. And I love my daughter for saying that. I think that we cannot pretend that there have been legacy of apartheid, discrimination, all this stuff. We can't. But we can build and create opportunities for people who are discriminated without discriminating against others, without feeding the vicious cycle of inhumanity against others. If we were to have a system in South Africa that said, let's take care of all South African children, irrespective of what they look like, most beneficiaries of such a system would be black anyway, because of the sheer number of black people. So you shouldn't have a system that says you can come in because you're white. Most people who come in are going to be black anyway because of the number of. Let's create future citizens of South Africa, the world, irrespective of what they look like, who will be proud to call South Africa home, who will be proud to want to contribute to making South Africa an amazing player in global affairs, irrespective of what they look like. Let's not discriminate against people on the basis of their religion, their skin color, their gender identity, ethnicity, and that sort of thing. The strength that South Africa has is its diversity, and we should invest in this diversity instead of treating it as a weakness, because it's not. It's only a weakness to those people who want to thrive on divide and rule policies, which is the current people.
And by the way, your point on diversity in this book here, I do argue that our diversity, we must use that to our advantage. There are many things we could do. We can do a lot to advance the country. And I don't think we think of things from that perspective. And in this book, that's exactly what I'm arguing as, Solly, that we can use our diversity to do amazing things in this country. But so long as we have things like race-based policies, we are going to.
You can't, because you're saying, I used to teach at UCT, and it was painful to hear white students in my class, and they were the minority, by the way, saying, well, we have to find opportunities outside of South Africa because we know that we don't qualify, we don't have the right skin color.
And
That's
many have
what
been
a
doing
black
that.
child would have said during apartheid. I don't have the right skin color. Now it's a white child who's saying that. Even colored children are saying that. Indian children are saying that. We should never allow that to happen. We need a kind of leadership that's able to nurture all South Africans, irrespective of what they look like,
Irrespective
to
of
do
their color,
amazing things for South Africa. Anyone who has potential to be something big, we must invest in them, irrespective of what they look like. And again, I repeat, most beneficiaries will always be black because
always
they are
black.
about 80% of the population.
Yeah.
So we don't need to fear little minorities for that. Let's those people who have money from the past, inherited and all that, let's encourage them to invest in South Africa, to keep their money in South Africa. But we must not say we want your money, but your child doesn't qualify to get into this institution because your child is white like you. It's nonsense. It doesn't make sense. And we think people are fools, you know. So yeah, you must invest here, but your child doesn't qualify. They must go to Canada or to Australia, to New Zealand. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But how do we end BE? Do you see any prospect of BE being scrapped or being ended?
Well,
To me, there's a lot of politics around it. The moment you bring the idea of we need to scrap race-based policies, people will say, look, but black people are still left behind, you know. But black, what do they say? Black management, it still accounts for X amount, you know, of percentage.
well, I will not respond to that.
We need to do something about it.
No, it's nonsense to say. I think we should build a system that enables people to invest and start their own things. It's nonsense, actually, it's shameful to see black people say, why are these white people starting white companies and then employing white people? I mean, they start their own companies. Why must you be crying that other people are not employing you in their own companies? It doesn't make sense. So we should, this thing that the world owes us something, white people owe us something, it's nonsense. It's limiting to the potential that resides in black people.
The potential, yeah.
To say, look at all these firms, all of them, the managements are white. I mean, apparently Elon Musk wanted to bring his company to South Africa. He couldn't because they wanted him to give a certain percentage to black people.
Yeah,
and we know that
investing.
exactly. And we know that when it's big money, it doesn't go to you and me. It goes to ANC aligned people. So the only way that race-based policies can go away is for the ANC to be massively weakened or defeated and removed from power. Then we can show South Africans that we can still have a system that is caring, that is aware of the past, and that will take care of the pains of the past without discriminating against. We can't lose tomorrow because of yesterday. It's important that we don't lose tomorrow because of yesterday. Okay, so where there is pain, we cannot pretend not to see the pain. But the ANC has done everything wrong. We didn't even have goals or targets. If we had said, okay, let's have BEE policies after every 10-year period, we evaluate, we see where we are at, what progress. We couldn't because they stole the money anyway. A lot of the people who benefited from all these policies are ANC people. They're not the ordinary black people. So they can't. There's nothing to measure.
That's a very sad part. That it's the black elite who have made money here. The man,
and whenever there are big, like multi-million rent projects coming out of government, you can rest assured that they will go to ANC aligned people. When there are 10,000 rand, 15,000 rand projects, you and I will get them, and you feel, yeah, I'm getting money from government. But look at these guys get one tender, they buy 8 cars, 9 cars. It's shameful for black people. We don't invest back into the country. We think that we want to be seen in this owning 5 houses in every province or 9 houses and big cars and driving around. No, I think that there's something about our own culture, our own self-love that is misplaced. That things that we have to have stuff to show off in order to be loved. We should have invest in a country that invests in knowledge. I'm saying even the whole of Africa should invest in some kind of Pan-African Research Institute where money goes in, youngsters are taken in there and they're given opportunities to play around and come up with amazing new knowledge development. But African leaders don't think that way. You know,
Yeah,
I met one dude from no.
You know, yeah, you know, Solly, I said this thing in one of the conferences this year. I said that the transformation we need in South Africa is the transformation of creation, right? As you just said, we need to create more businesses.
Transformation of what?
Just transformation of creation. Creation. That's not redistribution. No, we don't want that. Creation. Let's not be obsessed with white-owned businesses.
Yeah.
Let's focus on creating companies, creating businesses. You look at the rugby, sport. People are obsessed that where is the black rugby team? If you know of one, you are into rugby perhaps. Do you know of one black rugby team that is in the league, that is playing, or that was founded by black people? So these are the things we need to think about. How do we create things instead of being obsessed that some people started this thing and we want to be
I just want to be the CEO. Why don't you? I mean, if I start, it's crazy. I mean, actually, it's shameful. Somebody starts a business. You have sometimes family-owned businesses. People say, "Why is the management white?" Oh, well, it's a white-owned family that owns the business. I'm not saying people mustn't share, but to want to politically, emotionally force people to give everything they create to others, it's nonsense.
A shameful thing to do.
We have to, we need to get to a point in the history of humanity where black men and women can stand up and be counted because they do things, they produce them, and they are proud of them. And the world, and of course, we must create a world where they're enabled to grow, to invest, and to show their. But we can't live in a world where we are constantly begging, where we constantly think that everybody else owes us something. Everyone else must give us half of what they have. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. It's a great deal of entitlement, and that, which by the way I do cover in the book as well, the culture of entitlement. That we need to, if we want to advance as a society, we must do away with that and be creative.
But if we don't have the kind of leadership that speaks that language, then all this nonsense it's normalized. People think that's the way it must be. The world owes us something. I'm saying they must give us. They must just give us. I mean, I remember a few months ago, Ramaphosa was in Paris. He made this speech, and everybody was like, wow. But actually, if you listen to this speech, he was saying, "But you, the Europe, you promised us some money. You haven't given us that money. You're giving us that money." Oh, okay. Surely we should have another language. I mean, we have what it takes. We have amazing African men and women who are doing amazing things,
and
but many of them are
resources. The natural resources as well. All that.
But many young black professionals who are doing well, they're in Dubai, they're in Paris, they're in London, Toronto, they're elsewhere. Because when they come back home, they're not allowed the space to be who they are, because then the political parties shut them down. They're in danger of being killed because they're clever blacks. They ask too many difficult questions and stuff. We should move away. The thing is, some of these archaic African systems hold Africa back. We should ask ourselves, we can still be proud of being African, but there are some practices that maybe don't allow us to move to the front, to be the people we are. And we must have conversations about those.
You mean our own practices, right? That are holding us back. That's a very important point we are making. And many people will dislike what we are saying. They are not going to, they don't want to hear it. Are you saying that it's us? Are you saying that we should look ourselves in the mirror? And your point is that, yes, there might be things that we are doing that are holding us back, that are making us fail on governance, or being a globally competitive region or group of countries. And people don't know. That's what makes me want to add. About why
your sound is getting, I'm not sure what's going on. If it's okay, your sound is disappearing from time to time. Can you know your voice? Can you say it again?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay. You blanked out in some of the things you were saying.
Is it fine now?
Yeah, it's fine now. Yeah, so I think that we need leadership. Everything is about leadership. I think the thing that scares me about South Africa now is that the political terrain is becoming increasingly fragmentalized or fragmented. It's also obviously very contested. There are lots of political messages, lots of egos in that space, lots of narratives in that space as we head towards the next elections. There is not a single person in South Africa now, man or woman, who is respected broadly in the country. Everyone speaks to a little fiefdom. There are lots of political fiefdoms all over the place, and it makes it really hard to speak to South Africans because, and it's not unique to South Africa. I think it's happening pretty much all over the world. There's a French journalist who wrote the same thing about what he called the archipélisation de la politique française, the archipel, archipelization of French
Yeah.
politics. And
Mm.
so there aren't, we used to have voices, like say a voice of Mandela that used to be all encompassing. Those even the predecessor to or Tambo was respected widely in the ANC. Some of the leaders that you talk about in your book, we had voices that people could listen to across the board, irrespective of
Yeah.
the party they belonged to, because they had that moral high ground from which they were able to speak. Now you don't have those people.
Yeah, we lack those people. Can you hear me? Can you hear me properly
Yeah,
now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Now, you've just said that now. Let's jump slowly into the multi-party coalition. You and I were at the multi-party gathering
Right.
with civil society
Right.
in Kempton Park. Well, you spoke from Switzerland. I spoke at the gathering.
You are in situ. I was ex situ.
Yeah, yes, man. It was just an amazing
Right.
experience. But I mean, you in your when I heard you talking there, you are in support of this multi-party coalition, and you think it's the right thing to do. It came at the right time. There has to be the defeat of the ANC, and you were so passionate about that. Tell me about this multi-party coalition. Do you think it's going to make an impact? Is it going to be a serious challenger to the ANC? What are your thoughts there?
No, like I say, the political sense in South Africa are shifting. I'll come back to this one. There's now, we see that Karl Niehaus and his party, Areta, is called the African Radical Economic Development Alliance, and they're going into the EFF. They're calling AZAPO, the PAC, UDM into the. I mean, the others haven't responded to that. I think we'll see a number of coalitions being created all over the place. But these guys, I was praising them, and I still do, because I know that some of them didn't want to go in there. So the fact that they allowed themselves to go and form this thing is just one step. It's not all that is needed for them to win elections. I think it's a pity that they're still running as egos. Every one of those political parties wants to be president. I think what South Africa needs is a one strong voice. And it's a pity that this thing is still seen as a DA initiative, whether it is or it's not. I had was it Zibi from Rise Mzansi being interviewed by John Matham from Cape Talk yesterday, and I was quite disappointed in what he said. He was that he basically thinks this multi-party pack is just a DA. It's a rebranded multi-moon pack that the DA started, and it was correct. And he was saying that progressive people will not vote for them. I don't know what he means by progressive people. It's a pity that John Matham didn't ask him that question. I think the multi-party pack needs to come up with a joint campaign. I really think they should do that. And this campaign should speak to many of the issues that are affecting South Africa and South Africans. But it must be a promise. It mustn't be just a reaction to the pain. It must almost paint a picture. It must say to South Africans, this is the kind of South Africa we've had for over the past 30 years. This is what we pledge to build. But they're not doing that. I mean, I listened to the leader of the IFP. He was interviewed yesterday on radio this morning, and he was still saying, no, we are doing our own thing. We're going to do that. Even Mashaba wants to be president, and all of these guys want to do their own thing. There's still suspicion about whether or not the DA can be trusted to be a true
And
party.
so they are attacking. What also drives me nuts is that they even attack one another. You know, all
Yeah,
these stupid fights that they
correct,
usually have.
correct,
They are
correct.
continuing with this thing. Months before the election, these guys are still
Yeah,
attacking one another. And as you
yeah,
say, it seems like everybody wants to be president. You know, Solly,
yeah.
this is just my view, right?
I made a suggestion to them. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
So I'm
I
just
made it.
saying that,
Oh,
yeah,
go
so
ahead.
let me say this. So I'm just saying that I feel like, Solly, and I want you to comment to this. I feel like there are just too many parties emerging everywhere. Every now and then you hear there's a new party. Every now and then there's a new party. How is that helpful? Maybe let's get your insight. How is that helpful, given that you have this big party, the ANC, that still commands support? Yes, it's been declining over the years, but it still commands support. And
Yeah.
you always have these small these small parties emerging everyone wanting to be president. Is this helpful, given where we are?
No, it's not. No, it's not helpful. And in any case, a lot of the parties that are growing on the left side, the closer they are to the ANC, at least to the extreme left, the more they're going to coalesce against change. These guys are still being driven by the idea of the mass democratic movement, which is Soviet inspired, and they are the comrades, this comrade, that kind of people,
Yeah, comrades, yeah,
and they consider themselves to be the progressive people who are going to save black people from the monster of
mm,
the West. Hopefully, they think that China and Russia loves them. I mean, that's a level of naivety in politics. Do you think the Russians love you or
yeah.
the Chinese love you?
You
No,
think China will
you
love
have
you,
something they want.
right?
You know what I'm saying? So I see that Jacob Zuma has got an announcement to make. Maybe he's going to create another party, or maybe his son is going to announce another party very on the 16th, which is two
Or
days
go to
from
the
today.
EFF
Yeah.
with
No,
Zuma.
I don't see Jacob Zuma going to the EFF, because my lemma is the commander in chief. Okay, he's the boss. I don't see Zuma going there to be bossed around by Malema. It's very hard for me to imagine that. I'll be very, very surprised if Zuma joined the EFF. I see him. Look, there's an announcement that Zuma is making on Saturday, or 2 days from today. And I suspect that he and his son has said many times that he wants to be president. And to be president, he won't go to the EFF. So all these guys close to Zuma, the Kalneauses, are going into the EFF. I doubt that Zuma is going to do the same thing. Okay, I don't think he'll stay with the ANC. So your short answer to your question is that it's not helping to see all these new political parties coming into space, because they fragmenting the entire thing even further. And the ANC will end up remaining but the Makulubas, who will still be controlling the big chunk of the pie, who will be making favors to them. Okay, look, if you vote for me on this issue, you'll get that position, you'll get that position, you'll get that position. I think that what South Africa needs seriously is for a good number of parties, and I thought that the multi-party pack would be those to gang up seriously against the ANC. But they can't gang up seriously against the ANC if they are not able to put together one single strong campaign and to say, let's back one person to be the president. Okay, I know that there were two options being looked at. One was to find an independent person so that it's not one of them, because they're all in competition for this position. That's the one option. The other option is for them to come up with some kind of rotation amongst themselves. They could go in with an amazing, compelling campaign that says, okay, we just symbolic president, say Mashaba is president for 6 months or 12 months, Stinezen becomes president. So, but you don't have the powers. They need to reduce the powers in the presidency. There's too much power in the presidency. It's been
That's the
said
fact,
over and
yeah.
over again. But the multi-party pack holds the power. The person at who is president on a rotation is more like a chairman of a board. Okay, and that person goes to the UN. They're receiving heads, they're visiting heads of states. They do the symbolic stuff. They speak to South Africans not from the perspective of party, but from the perspective of the constitution. because we need a uniting presidency. We need a president that's not going to put a political party ahead of what's good for South Africa, which is what we haven't had, unfortunately, since the beginning of democracy. And Mandela tried, but all the other people really clearly placed the ANC ahead of what's good for South Africa. So I think these guys are going to need to think out of the box if they want to come up with an amazing, compelling, because there are still too many South Africans, believe it or not, of all ages, not just youngsters, who are saying, but whom do you want us to vote for? There's nobody to vote for. So it means that there's no resonance between what these people think they're saying and what people want to hear.
Yeah. Solly, we have 3 minutes now. Three minutes now.
Okay.
So let's wrap this up. And my question to you is this one: if the ANC remains in power next year, which is my gut feeling that they will remain in power. I'm sorry to say that. So, but I am asking, if the ANC does remain in power next year, what is your advice? What is your advice to South Africans? What do they do after that? So those who want to pack their bags and go, do that? Or should they stay and still fight going forward and fight to remove
my
the ANC?
answer, I don't want to be defeatist. I do not believe that the ANC will stay in power unless it steals elections. My advice to South Africans will happen when the ANC stays in power. For now, the ANC is not in power. For now, I want to continue believing that the ANC will be massively weakened or defeated. But what we haven't discussed, you and I, is do we trust that the IEC will not be abused to give a win to the ANC that's not deserved? I think it's a discussion that too many of us are not having, and I'm worried about that because I know that the IEC is not buffered enough against political abuse by the ANC, and the Russians and the Chinese it's not in their interest for the ANC to lose power. Okay, so nobody can guarantee that the ANC, the IEC, and the electoral process. I'm not talking about standing there with a fancy T-shirt and hat on election day to make sure nobody claps anybody else. The entire process has to be watched. Who gets the tender to print ballot papers? How many, as opposed to how many gets printed, as opposed to how many are needed? Who controls the voting stations? What happens to that area where the ballot boxes are locked in overnight before they're collected the next day? Who gets access to that room? Is there a chance that they might be somebody might go in there and put more stuff into those boxes? Who transports the ballot papers? Who controls the IT system? The entire system has to be watched with eyes of a hawk from upstream to downstream, not just on the day of elections.
Who will be the watcher? Who's going to do the watching? Is it the Chinese? It can't be the Chinese.
The systems now the systems can be messed up big time. So we cannot take anything for granted. All right. I think it's very important that I don't believe that the ANC will win elections. I believe that the ANC has not always won all the elections it's claimed to have won in the past, and I get this from the belly of the IEC. Okay. So I think that it's important that we don't take anything for granted. I will not believe and I will not talk as if the ANC has won elections until I see the results of the next year. But if they do stay in power, it's going to be the real hell for South Africa, because they will come in with legislation that will ensure that they get entrenched into power forever, and that might even take away some of the freedoms of expression that we have, so that the ANC controls everything. Look at the kind of legislation that is being introduced now, including that you can insult people. Who defines insulting somebody? You and I might end up not being able to say many of the things then that we are able to say today. That is what scares me.
Yeah. Solly, thank you so much, sir. Great to talk to you.
It's a pleasure. It's a